What is up, guys, and welcome to another episode of The Nexus. Today we are here with our champion of the premier event for Shadows of the Galaxy. Joshua, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great.
Joshua has come to us today in the form of a cactuar, and he is ready to give us his insight onto his amazing 54 card Boba list. How you been feeling after your win? Still celebrating?
Celebrate pretty hard on the Sunday, but now I've got to go back to reality. So no more celebrating.
Back prepping for the next tournament, I guess.
Yeah. I'll show down this weekend. Actually, is the next one.
Yeah. I mean, no rest for the wicked. We've also got a little ad announcement. We've got UKTC's second event coming up at the end of September. We have two 1K events on the 28th and 29th at the Lee Valley Sports Centre, guys. So get your tickets now and come and take on the best.
So there'll be 1-day events back to back.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Yeah, so it's mainly for people who are traveling, maybe from up north, give them a chance to play two tournaments in a row.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot because if you travel and you get unlucky on one day, then the other day you're just miserable.
Exactly. So yeah,
now you get to try again.
There's no point in side events. You may as well just have two main events. I mean, obviously a top cut would be preferable, but we're just trying to experiment with things whilst we're in an early stage. So yeah, get your tickets now. I'm sure Joshua will come and play, and
I will
get some W's. And get all your friends from London down as well that couldn't make it to Leicester because it's an easier opportunity. So anyway, let's get into this interview. Start off with generico question number 1. So how long have you played TCGs? And what was it that attracted you into the Star Wars Unlimited world?
How long have I played TCGs? Let's see. I think I got my first Yu-Gi-Oh! Starter deck when I was like 11, but I didn't know what on earth I was doing with it. I just thought that it was cool because it had angels and dragons in it.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
playing properly probably since I was about 16.
Nice. So how many years would that be?
Oh, God, 14, 15 years ago.
Wow, yeah, so very experienced player. What would you say? So you did you get into Yu-Gi-Oh at 16? Was that what you started playing?
Yeah, that's what I started with.
Yeah,
started with Yu-Gi-Oh, then I played Magic for a year while I was at uni, but then Snap Custom Age rotated out of Standard and I stopped playing because I was like, it took my favorite card away. I'm not playing anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
back to Yu-Gi-Oh.
It happens.
And then Yu-Gi-Oh banned all my favorite cards, so I went to Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy. So Final Fantasy is a game that you've had pretty great success with, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, a lot better than Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah. So what's your brief experience with Final Fantasy been?
I see the Final Fantasy's community is a lot like Star Wars. Everyone is so friendly, everyone's so nice. It's just great.
Yeah, I mean that's important, right? To get enjoyment out of playing the tournaments, you really need a friendly environment like that, which can be hard to come by in some TCGs for sure.
Honestly, half the fun when I'm playing Final Fantasy events is just chatting to my opponents.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I experienced that a lot when we played at UK Games Expo, which we will get into later on. But yeah, so what was it that made you transition into Star Wars from playing Final Fantasy?
Very similar.
Oh,
this time they didn't ban all my cards. My cards just became unplayable because the meta was so aggressive. And Star Wars just came out, so I jumped over to Star Wars. You have to wait and see once they start banning all my cards what the next game is.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, was there anything that particularly attracted you to Star Wars except for the fact that your cards got banned in Final Fantasy, or was
it was sort of like on my radar. I had a few friends up north who were talking about the game, and then the Twickenham event came around, and they said I could borrow a deck to play in it. So I was like, well, if they're lending me a deck and it's in Twickenham, it's like a train ride away. I have no real excuse not to go.
Absolutely.
So I went and I played a Boba ECL there.
Ooh.
And like I said, everyone I was playing was really, really friendly. I finished top 4 and I really enjoyed the back and forth in the game. And I was like, well, I'm going to keep playing it then.
Yeah, I mean, hitting top 4 in Twickenham must have been a pretty amazing feeling considering you just borrowed a deck. Was it the first time you ever picked up the game, or?
I played it like maybe in a week. I played about 50 games on Tabletop Simulator the week before,
Oh,
and that was
okay,
the
yeah. So
I
you
got for
you
it.
did a little bit of prep then.
Yeah, little boot camp.
Um, but yeah. So what was your experience at Twickenham like then? You obviously you said all the players are very friendly. Did you find the game just sort of felt very natural to play for you? Like what was
Yeah,
it?
that's
What was it
my
you
opinion.
enjoyed about the game when you were playing?
It did feel very natural to play. The back and forth, the turn system being one, then another, then you, then them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One action, one action. It's how Runeterra plays, and I really enjoyed Runeterra. So playing this, it just sort of felt right, I guess.
Perfect. And
And
are you a fan of the IP itself as well, or?
yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I used to love first episodes,
Hmm.
1 to 3, and then when we got older and I found out there was a 4, 5, and 6, I was like, whoa, because obviously, when you're younger, you just sort of watch them in the cinema. You,
Yeah, of
you can't really
course.
do any research. So
Yeah, yeah. I
I
mean,
was
back.
waiting for ages for 4 to come out, and then I found out what it had already come out.
Yeah.
Crazy.
What's a prequel? Yeah, no.
Exactly.
But yeah, no. Awesome times. Those films coming out and being able to watch them in the cinema.
Still remember to this day the
Yeah,
moment Darth Maul, the second lightsaber comes out.
yeah.
So whoa,
That was
blown away.
classic cinema, honestly. At the
Yeah.
time, it was incredible moments. So yeah, perfect. So you did fantastic with Boba Green at Twickenham,
Mhm.
and then you you have a blog that, and you do a lot of posts on your Facebook page about
Mhm.
your locals. You tend to play different decks every week, all of your own creation. What's the reason for mixing it up so much? Is it just out of fun or just experimentation?
Well, I mean, if some guy comes to locals every week playing Boba Green and wins every week with Boba Green, that's going to be real boring for everyone, right?
Oh
So
yeah, absolutely, and it's a very commonplace thing to be fair.
I'd rather just play different decks. Like
Uh,
I played Fennec, Kira, two kinds of hand, just
yeah, I
keep it.
mean, I follow your blog, and you always post some quite in-depth analysis of your gameplay and like changes and stuff. And I think it's really nice to give players this kind of insight, especially with the rate you can build decks at.
Mm.
It's because deck building is quite hard in this game. I think it's a difficult balance to make, and having people that are very good at it willing to give as much insight as you do, I think it's really helpful for the community as we get started with the game, because we're still in the infancy of the game in reality. So yeah, go check that stuff out. There will be links in the description or the comments, so you can go check out the blog, because it is really really good stuff. But
To be
yeah,
honest, honestly, I get as much out of explaining as people do me explaining to them. Because as I'm explaining ideas, I sort of think about them more in depth.
yeah, I
Because when
mean,
I'm trying to
it makes
convey why
sense.
I do things to people, I have to think more about why I do things instead of just it's intuitive to me. And that helps me come up with more ideas. So I really like discussing decks and things like that.
Well, with that being said, let's get onto your deck from the premiere event. So let's quickly skip the screen.
Oh, that's a nice transition.
Oh, very tasty. So this deck has been causing a bit of controversy online for the reason that you have 54 cards, which is a lot
Hmm.
to some people.
All I'm going to say is that at the end of game 3 in the final, I had 4 cards left in my deck. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, if that isn't explanation enough as to why, then I don't
So
know what is.
I can go through the 54. So
Yeah, let's go
it
through.
started first when I was playing Hand Command in set 1 because that deck is very toolboxy. Because with the U-wing, you want to hit some number of targets, and it was just very hard for me to fit it to 50. But the win percent in that deck comes massively from opening a resupply. Your win percent shoots through the roof when you open that card.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what I did was I looked at the odds, including Mulligan, of opening resupply with a 50-card deck, which is whatever 0.68 squared is, which I've forgotten. 0.68, but yeah, it's like 54% of the time you'll have it. you'll have the
And
resupply,
that's
roughly.
that's with your
It's 50.
that's with your mulligan, right?
With your mulligan.
Yeah.
54% of the time you open it. So what I did was I went, well, 54, that's kind of close to 50. So I'll keep adding cards until it goes down to 50%. So that's where I ended up at 54, because that way I know with a mulligan, 50% of the time I'll get resupply.
I mean,
So I don't go to 55, go to 54.
And that's the only reason that you added extra cards is changing that percentile essentially of
Yes.
hitting your ramp.
Basically, I went, as long as I'm between 50 and 54, it's fine. And then with decks like Han, where you kind of want lots of variation in what you can do, I opted to add the 4 in. And then it's sort of stuck with it in Boba because you're playing a sort of a fatigue game plan, so you want as many diverse options as possible. And of course, you still want to open resupply. Granted, you've got super laser tech, but resupply is just it's just better.
It's a lot more solid, right?
Yeah.
So when you say a fatigue strategy, like, kind of explain to the viewers what you mean by that.
So what you're trying to do is you're trying to fatigue their hand of all of the options. You keep presenting scary thing after scary thing, and they have to keep answering them. So every turn you draw 2 cards, you have to resource 1, and then I'm hoping that they have to use 1 to answer my board, which means to make their proactive plays, they have to sort of dip into the initial hand size that you have, the 4, because that's 3 cards a turn they have to use.
Makes sense.
And they only draw 2. And the idea with Boba is that as I keep forcing them to use 3 cards a turn, eventually they're going to not be able to, and they're going to only be able to use 2 cards a turn, 1 to resource, 1 to answer or be proactive. So depending on how they answer or are proactive in the turn, I want to have the option to either make a really strong proactive play myself or a really strong reactive play myself.
Of course. So what would you, if you could explain a situation where it would be a reactive play?
So a reactive play would be something like your opponent plays a Green Squadron A-Wing, so I play a 7th Fleet Defender. It's a reactive thing. I didn't want to play 7th Fleet, but he played an A-Wing, so I have to play 7th Fleet.
Yeah, so you...
Or my opponent plays something on the ground that's scary, so I have to burn a hotshot blaster on a ground unit to clear it.
Makes sense. So,
something to answer what they've done. Reactive.
So take us through your sort of first 4 or 5 turns, like your perfect sort of turns, and how you would approach the. Let's start off with the control matchup. Like what do you want to be doing with that?
The plan is the exact same for control and aggro in the first 4 to 5 turns. Okay, you actually want to end the game on turn 4, ideally, with a maul. You want to go turn 1, Vizine takes something that they really want to play. Turn 2, Macalunky the Vizine, kill whatever they played, get the untap, play resupply. Next turn, you're on 5, you want to play Bosk or something, hit them, get the untap, deploy Boba, attack, clear something, get the untap, put the armor on, put a Greedo down. Next turn, you're on 6, you want to play Fett Fire Spray, get the untap and play Patrolling V-Wing, and then play Maul in the game. That's your ideal curve, and if you hit that curve, you'll beat everything.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything that can stop that? That sounds quite powerful.
Something to disrupt your ramp, so some sort of hand hate, like Bazine or Spark of Rebellion. You're not drawing the cards, because, you might not draw them. Anything to interact with the Fire Spray also hurts quite a lot, because it represents a lot of damage. Or anything to one-shot the Boba as well. So there are a few ways that you can stop it if they do have it.
Absolutely. So here's one question, just like looking at the list. Obviously, a favorite card in the Cunning decks is Surprise Strike. What's your main reasoning for not using it? Obviously, Hotshot Blaster is a very good alternative, and a lot of people use that on top of Surprise Strike. But what would you say is replacing Surprise Strike in the deck for you?
It's the Hotshot Blaster. I mean, in set 1, I didn't even play Surprise Strike in Boba anyway, so I never really played the card. But when I did play it, I found that the card rotted in my hand, because I'm holding it waiting for something either to go base or to clear a scary unit, and it just sits there, and it means I'm playing down a card until I use it. So the Hotshot Blaster is nicer because I can just resource it, and then I'm not playing down a card.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's kind of a consistency thing for you
Yeah,
in a way.
keeps your options more open, which, as I said, is a big thing because I need to be reactive at times and proactive at times. So I'd rather have as many options in hand as I
No,
can.
absolutely. And with that in mind, free Boba's armor. Um, Obviously that can potentially be quite a bricky card for you, unless it's something that you're happy to just pump onto your normal units. So like, how do you get use of the free Boba's armor?
Um,
Does it work for you?
so in game one, your opponent shouldn't have many, if any, answers to the armor. So you just put that on the Boba, and honestly, it just runs away with the game almost every time that happens.
Yeah, I
Like if it's
mean,
not answered then and there, it's done. Because you've ramped, ideally, you've ramped, which means Rivals Full, which is the one of the only cards that can answer it. You're gonna get at least 2 attacks with the Boba. That's 12 damage. They can't, and then they have to spend the entire turn killing a card that's already done 12 damage. It's just too much. It's well worth playing 3. And then because I've got 3, almost everyone boards in the confiscates because, you know, what do you? There's not much else to do about it. So it's when I see that their deck list has confiscates in the board, it's really easy for me to take 3 Boba's armor out for whatever I want to put in. And then the
yeah,
confiscates they've just boarded in are useless.
no, that's true. Obviously with open deck list being available for the tournament just gone, that was an option. But I think moving forward that shouldn't be the case in Swiss anymore.
Oh,
But
why not? Is that just a
I think,
tournament rule?
yeah, I think that's an update that Fantasy Flight have done. That they're taking away the open deck list during
Oh, I really
Swiss.
like the open deck list.
Yeah, I mean
I thought it was
it's
nice.
yeah. Some people like it, some people hate it. It's a bit of a strange one, really. But either way, this tournament did have an open deck list, which allowed you to sort of work around your opponent's decks. So some interesting cards that you haven't really mentioned, and one that seemed to very much overperform in your deck was Salacious Crumb. Um,
Oh yeah,
can you talk about this little bad boy and
what a guy.
how he really sort of pushed? He seemed to push the late game for you quite a lot.
So not only is it healing 1 a turn, which is really nice, it costs the low price of 1. So every time you get that Boba on tap, you've always got something to do with it, just to play the crumb. Um, the return to hand deal 1 is obviously nice, but the main benefit is that it burns 2 actions for like 1 mana, which you get back with Boba anyway. Because at the start of my turn, I don't always know what I need to do, so I'm sort of waiting to see what my opponent does. And if you're returning Crumb to your hand, playing Crumb, you essentially have done nothing, but you get to see 2 things that your opponent's going to do.
How
So
how
it
how
really helps.
important do you think though that kind of that still? It's not really stall, but it's kind of stalling a little bit. How
The
important
action,
do you think that those action stalls are in order
it's
to?
invaluable.
Yeah,
It's absolutely invaluable. Imagine I've got in my hand a Fett Fire Spray and, like, I don't know, a Vader. So I can deploy the Fire Spray to space and deal damage, or I can use Vader to control a unit that they play. But I don't know what they've got in their hand. I don't know if they're holding on to, like, Fell the Dragon or something for waiting for me to play the Fire Spray. So I get to see how much mana they're willing to commit to the turn, and then I can use that to infer what they've got left, and then make a choice on which of the 2 things I want to play.
absolutely. And I guess Bazine's really nice in the late game for that as well. Just to
Yep.
kind of navigate your plays. She's a very cheap body, and when you're hitting the later game, I guess that information can be incredible.
Yep. It lets you know exactly what removal options they have. And honestly, throughout the day, most of the time, I told my opponent to just keep the cards they had in their hand.
Yeah, I
Rather than
mean
giving a
that.
random card. I'm like, I know what you've got. Now I know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess unless the card's very, very detrimental to you, it's
Mhm.
almost stronger to have that knowledge so you can navigate your turn.
Exactly. The other criminal thing about Salacious Crumb is he's underworld, so Maul can redirect damage to him and Macalunky can return him.
Yeah,
Absolutely criminal. Because
very.
like against Sabine, for example, you just go Salacious Crumb, they play their silly green squadron A-Wing, and then you go Macalunky, return it, kill the squadron, untap. They ping you, or they can't ping you because you're going to play the Crumb and you're going to heal the ping anyway.
Yeah, so yeah, super value there.
Yeah,
Um,
that's crazy.
so reinforcement walkers in the main. A lot of people sort of side that in, but it has been in especially Boba Green command. It has been showing its face in the main a lot. How did you find it worked for you on the day? Because I know after playing you previously that you like to go long with your games and go deep sometimes. So how was it on the day for you?
The walker's fine. It's like the cards. It's not crazy. It's got obviously a nice stat line, 6/9, and then it's got it on entry and then on attack effect. So, it's just fine. It's just there isn't anything else to put in the late game instead of it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's more like
how much did you lean into the healing? Because I know obviously Salacious Crumb heals a lot.
Almost every time I played the walker, I healed, unless if I was at 0.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or if it's a crazy card, but a lot of the time you just want the 3 healing because the card you draw, you draw a card, right? The card you draw oftentimes is not going to prevent 3 damage. And
Yeah,
if it does, it's going to cost mana to do it. So, like, if a Cloud Rider is revealed, for example, the Cloud Rider can obviously kill a 3 attack unit, but then I have to use 2 mana to save me 3 damage. So I'd rather just bin it and get the 3 now.
Yeah, all in one action as well. So you're economizing on your plays, which, like you say, is a very useful thing to be able to do.
Yep, to be able to manipulate whether you need to use actions or use actions quickly, or if you need to hold them. So it's just honestly most of the time it's just heal.
So
But it's good.
A lot of the other cards we don't really need to talk about too much. So No Good to Be Dead, obviously one of the best cards in the game. Classic.
No Good to Me Dead actually. So the No Good to Me Dead it's weird. I don't want it in the main, but as you can see, I've already got 10 sideboard cards.
Right.
Because against aggro, I want my deck to consist of 3 Waylay, 3 No Good to Me Dead. But then I also need my board to have the Fell the Dragon, the 2-Pelt Return, the 3 Choose Sides for control. So that's 12 cards. So 2 of them have to go in the main deck.
No Good
just
to
to
be
make
Dead
space.
No Good to
And
Be
No Good
Dead.
to Me Dead was the one that got elected.
So why did it get selected over Waylay?
So Waylay was the one that I had in originally, and then I swapped it to No Good to Me Dead because I was like, don't really have anything to answer Boba Fett's enemy Boba Fett armors, nor dark sabers, other than managing the unit to turn it flips. I was like, well, I'd rather just have No Good to Me Dead because it can hit leaders, and everyone's got a leader.
Yeah, and it is a very effective card at its cost as well. Like you get a lot of value out of that two energy. So, I mean, it's a pretty standard card in a lot of people's main, but I can see why you wouldn't want it in your main board. But obviously, like you say, you can only have 10 cards in your side. So
yeah, so 2 get promoted to the main.
yeah, that's fair. So obviously, Overwhelming Barrage, brilliant card. Darth Vader, amazing card. You got a lot of top end in your deck, but I think that's kind of intentional, right? You're trying to, once you get there, you just want to play something every turn that's impactful. Is that the reason why you've got? Because it's like
that's exactly why
you got 11 things above six costs. So,
and it's like if you say you draw a Vader early and you don't have any Mauls or Walkers in the deck, if you draw one of your Vaders at the start of the game, like, can you really resource it? You've only got 2 more threats to draw into by the time you hit 7.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas because I know I've got a load of them, I'm happy to just resource the Vader. It's just like I'm gonna draw something.
Do you think?
I hope.
Do you think Maul being added in the most recent set has really sort of increased the power of Imperial command decks?
Oh, definitely. He is a joke of a card.
Do you want to take me through some of like the
why
laughable moments?
Why has he got 6 health? He's got a protection effect, so why does he have 6 health? He should be a 7/4. He should die to everything that he ambushes. So you have to have Underworlds to protect him. Nah, 7/6. He lives. What?
Yeah, I mean, is there any world in which, I mean, a lot of people have debated Maul versus Vader.
You need both. You need both.
But in reality, having them both seems like the big option.
In the ideal world, you draw both on 7, and you look at the board, and you go, am I killing their base, or am I killing their units? Yeah. No. Definitely both at 3. They're crazy cards,
Yeah,
especially
100%.
Maul. Why is he Underworld? Why can't I Macalunky him? They got a 4 health unit. You could Macalunky him, put 3 damage on it, and you're like, yep, that's another 6 coming in next turn.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the overwhelm just seems obnoxious, honestly.
It's ridiculous.
But you know, it is Darth Maul, and he is a badass. So even though for some reason he's in a giant washing machine on his card, but there we go. So as far as your mid game, you've opted not to play the new Zuckuss combo that a lot of people have been liking. Sticking with the old trusty Bosk. What's your reasoning behind not using those cards? Just because obviously they're very commonly used.
Full on Zuckuss, number one, is 6 slots. Like, to find the 6 slots, it would, like, I'm gonna have to cut like Cob Vamp, Trolling Viewing, like, you know, I'm hurting what the deck wants to do just to find space for 6 slots. And then you need both of them together, otherwise they're kind of sucky. Like, it's a 5-mana 6/6. Why am I playing a budget Poe Dameron? Like, what's going on here? You know,
That makes sense.
So I'd rather just have Bosk. Bosk is just, he's fantastic throughout the day. There aren't too many events, but the events that you do draw, you don't resource. I mean, other than resupply, because it, you know, it resources itself. But the events you do draw, you don't resource. So when you draw Bosk, you're likely to have an event, even though there aren't that many in the deck, simply because you don't throw them away. And on 5, when you attack with Bosk, kill something, get the untap, then you play Macalunky and you return Bosk. You do 5 damage. Then you flip Boba and attack. So you clear 3 units on that turn without needing to play Overwhelming Barrage. It's so much tempo swing.
Yeah, I mean that is a very, very strong combination. Another new card, Cob Vanth. What's the main benefit of using him? Because you haven't really mentioned him yet, except for
the main benefit of using Cob Vanth is that when he misses, you can have a little chuckle to yourself as you swear you're going to cut him next game. But he's got more uses. So he helps you find Bazine, because Bazine is crucial to the deck's plan. So with Cob Vanth and Vader, you have 2 cards that both dig 10 towards Bazine.
Makes sense.
He just helps you get there. And if you miss the Bazine, you know, you've got Patrolling Viewing, Cloud Rider, Salacious Crumb, all fantastic hits. Especially the Cloud Rider. Because you can kill a Poe Dameron for 3 mana with Cob Vanth if you hit a Cloud Rider. That's massive value. The other good use for him is post-board. When you board in Palpatine's Return, you can opt not to send a 2-drop and send a Sith instead if you have Palpatine's Return in hand.
Yeah, that's very...
So he can help turn it on. So obviously against the control decks, I tend to side out some of the less impactful cards like the Greedo and the Cloud Rider. Usually they are the first that I look towards cutting.
Oh, that makes sense.
But then I don't have to take out the Cob Vanth because the Palp returns are coming in. So I want to find the Siths and put them in the bin. So on 6, I can get them all.
Okay.
Extra criminal.
Really, really interesting insight here. Just one more card I want to go through in the main board before we slip over to the side. Jetpack at 1. Was it just simply because you can't have 4 hotshot blasters? Or...
well, if you look at Boba Fett, he only has space on his back for 1 jetpack. So I felt it made sense. Whereas I think he has space for 3 guns, so you're allowed to take 3 blasters because you've got 2 hands and 1 in the holster.
I mean, to be fair, if in the new season as well, he does kind of look like he's wearing 3 sets of his armor. So,
he definitely,
we can go thematic there.
The jetpack is a lot of your cards in the early game, like Bosk, the Boba Fett leader, have 5 health, and obviously the Boba Fett is obviously massive with 7. But these cards in the early game, your opponent is likely to have to take 2 actions to kill. Like, hit it with a guy, play a spell, or play a guy, hit it with a guy, or hit it with 2 guys. So after they take the first action and you identify that your Bosk or Boba is in danger, you put the jetpack on. That's their turn ruined.
Yeah, so they've tried to set up, and you've just put a stop to it, basically.
Yep.
Plus your guy gets a bigger hit next turn as well with the extra 2 damage. So pretty helpful.
It's very just useful, and it's 1 because it's got smuggle. You know, it's just. Really useful to have. I
mean, considering you got such a large 54 card deck, surely seeing a 1-of was very rare. Or did you find it came up quite often? Sorry, I was just joking, really.
It's a fair point being a one-off. It came out maybe 50% of the time I'd see it, maybe less, because it's like you just need to look at how many cards in the deck you go through per game, right? And then that's basically, well, I mean, it's slightly less than double the percent for me to see the card. If you're at 50 cards, it's just double the percent for the amount that you draw. But because it's got smuggle, it can be smuggled into the resource bar and I still get access to it. Unlike another one of, like if Greedo was a one of and that gets smuggled in, it's just gone.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
the fact that it has smuggle is a really big boon.
Yeah, I mean, how just off course a little bit. What do you think of the smuggle keyword? Is it
Well,
something that you really enjoy? And because for me it adds a lot to the game, the way I like to play.
I
But
think
what do you think?
I think every TCG needs an extra deck in some form. So in Yu-Gi-Oh, there's it's literally just called the extra deck where your fusions and
Hmm.
synchros and stuff go. In Final Fantasy, it's called the Limit Break deck, and it's a deck that you can play out of instead of your hand.
And Dragon Ball has the Z deck as well.
Yep.
So
So every game, I think, needs an extra deck. But the issue in a lot of the games is that the extra deck is where the most powerful things are. Like in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's almost
mm,
all extra deck monsters that people play out. And in Final Fantasy, there are some absolutely criminal limit break cards like Tidus.
same
For
in again in Dragon Ball. The strongest cards are in the Z deck normally. So
Exactly. So this smuggle mechanic I think is brilliant because it gives you an extra deck in the sense of your resources, a way to play without playing from hand, and they're cards that already exist in your deck. So you're not getting access to new, more powerful cards. You're just getting access to the same cards that you would normally, but now they're from an extra deck.
I,
So I think it's a really good way
I think it
to
really
have it.
I think it
Yeah.
really helps with consistency as well, right?
Yep.
For you know, it allows strategies like hand destruction and stuff to be a lot less toxic as well. Like I'm a hater of hand destruction strategies where in games where people put you to zero so you just can't play the game.
Yep.
But
It's no fun when
it's
that
just
happens.
not possible in this game. So even if I get pillaged, I normally
At
will
least
just
you
look
can
straight
play.
to my energy.
Yep.
Obviously getting slightly taxed, but at the same time, at least I can still continue to play rather
Exactly.
than just
Exactly.
sit there and watch.
I think it's a really fantastic mechanic, and as I said, I think it's literally one of the best, if not the best, extra deck mechanics that I've seen in a game.
I also really appreciate that Fantasy Flight decided to release it early,
Mm.
and that's opened up the game. You know, I mean, I'm hoping that Smuggle is like the norm, and they put it in every set.
I hope so too.
Obviously, we got to wait and see with that. But I just think it's a really cool way to make the game consistent, and yeah, I just love the amount of play lines, especially as a keen player of the card tech. It just
That's a trading card.
makes the game very fun. So yeah, one more thing. Why no ECL? Just because it doesn't bode well in the current meta, or
Look,
you just don't
look at
need
the
it?
deck. What
Yeah,
can I ECL?
yeah. I guess there's nothing you really need
It's like
to use it with.
Compound, Seventh Fleet. Maybe there's nothing that high value. I'd rather just have 5 more base health.
Makes
Especially
sense.
after Boba Fett unit got nerfed because he can't hit the leaders the turn they come out with the effect.
Yeah,
Because he used to do stuff like one-shot Han Solo, and that made me real sad when I played Han and that happened. But now he can't do that. It's like there's nothing high impact, man. I mean, I
yeah.
could if I was playing Zuckuss, I could ECL Zuckuss, and it's like that is really a budget Poe Dameron at that point.
Fair,
Yeah.
very fair. All right, so yeah, thanks for all the main board insight. Really good stuff. We're gonna quickly go through your sideboard and then
Hmm.
just talk about your matchups quickly.
So the sideboard, as I said, the two no good for me dead. I technically count them as sideboard. They're just pre-mained.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll imagine you've got a 12
Yeah.
sideboard. Yeah, that makes sense.
So what I did is I went through me and my friend Zav on the night of the event. He was in Amsterdam playing an FF event, but we were just chatting. We went through and worked out what I want for every single meta deck. So I went, these are the meta decks. It's Sabine, um, other Bobas. I was really surprised there were only 3 Boba commands, 2 with 30 health base, 1 with ECL. I thought there'd be way more. I think the deck's like S tier, so I was really surprised there was almost none of it. So that and Kira and Han, and those are like the 4 decks. that I consider to be like really, really, really strong, and what I'm scared of playing against. Oh, and obviously, sorry, I forgot the new hand with a blue. It's another strong deck. And so went through all the matchups. So Sabine, it was like, well, to beat the Bean Queen, I'm gonna need 3 Waylay, 3 no good for me dead. It's that simple.
Yeah, just those tempo plays to make it
And
easy for you.
then you have to play a respectful game where you need a way to manage her the turn she flips, which is possible thanks to Hotshot Blaster. Because you got Cobb Vamp, Boba Unit, Cloud Rider, and Greedo who all have 3 attack. You can save them if you have the Hotshot Blaster for Sabine's flip to one-shot her with the hot.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So you don't necessarily need to manage Dark Saber at all. Because you can just manage the Sabine.
Yeah.
So it's like, yep. So to beat the Bean Queen, I'm going to need those. Then against Boba Fett, I'm going to need no good for me deads because I don't have confiscates. I don't want to play confiscates for the armor.
Makes sense.
Because if I can manage the Darksaber without confiscate, then I don't want to board a card just for Boba Fett's armor. I'll model my way through it with the no good for me deads.
No, it makes sense, and it gives you enough time to figure out a game plan if you have to remove it, or you can just put another no good to me dead on if required.
Yep. Buys a lot of time. And I also need waylays because the scariest part about because most Bobas aren't playing a sort of fatigue plan; they're just trying to kill your base. So you need waylays so you can manage the first Boba Fett unit they play because he tends to stick around to get a lot of value, or the first 7th Fleet defender they play because it just buys you a bit of tempo. Like they spend 3 playing that, then I spend 3 playing it, bouncing, getting 1 back, playing a Greedo, then all of a sudden, I'm the one who's ahead on board.
Makes sense.
And also to manage the Fett's fire spray, because if you spend 6 on that, it gets bounced. You're just real sad. And then you also need Fell the Dragon because you need an extra way of managing Fett fire spray.
Yeah, for sure. Fett's fire spray is a menace. Can be very painful to play into with a lot of decks. So I've seen a lot of people using Fell the Dragon off aspect just simply for that card. To be fair.
Yep. Because when we were going through it, he just asked me, "What's the single best card in the game?" And answering Fett's fire spray, and I went, "Well, Fell the Dragon." And he was like, "Just put it in the board," and I was like, "Yeah, you're right. Just play it. Just pay 6 for it. It's fine." They paid 6 for their guy. It's whatever.
Okay, so let's talk about the fun cards of the sideboard.
Yep. So to beat decks like Kira and Han, you need Palp's Return because you need more value. So especially against Han, because they'll play the Pillage, make you discard cards. Because in Swiss, when I played against it, you play Pillage.
Are you talking about predominantly like Han 2?
Yeah, red
blue?
Han 2 blue. Yeah.
Yeah, the blue one. Yeah.
They'll play Pillage, or Force Throw, make you discard cards, and you're like, haha, discard more. And you're looking at Palp's Return in your hand, going, "You're in for a nasty surprise."
Yeah.
You've just helped me play it for 6, and you just need the extra value against Kira and all. I say Kira because I think she's the best of the control decks because she's the only one that can manage Sabine. All the rest of them just board to Sabine. But all of those sort of blue villainy control decks, you need extra value, and Palp's Return's the best way to get extra value. And then there's no way in the colors of managing capital ships. So the only way to manage capital ships is to take them with choose sides.
Which makes absolute sense. Very, very strong. Basically, like kind of like change of heart, but potentially. I mean, it's got a bit more setup, but if you pass over a crumb,
the setup's really easy because I've got Cobb Vamp and stuff. All those little dudes like patrolling viewing. Nobody ever kills that card. That just hangs out forever in the sky.
Yeah, it makes sense.
To be two sides. Salacious Crumb as well. Obviously, you can protect him yourself by returning him to hand.
Yeah, so obviously it's not too hard to set up at all. So how many games would you say you won using the
two sides?
The two sides, yeah.
I beat a Han blue in Swiss, and that's because he won game 1. Then in game 2, the second he played as Luke Skywalker, I just immediately choose sided it and gave him I choose sided it and I gave him a Cloud Rider. The next turn I played Maul and hit the Cloud Rider I gave him.
Oof. Jeez.
And then in the next game against him, he played a Redemption. I just choose sided it immediately. I was like, I love that. I know you have no spaceships, so this will do. And then there was a turn where he almost had a way to lethal me, but he had to protect himself from being lethaled. So he played Village Protectors, the 2/2 Sentinel shielded thing, and I was like, oh, I love that because it stops 2 of your attackers. You can't kill me, and I get to take initiative and kill you back.
Oh yeah.
So it won me that. Versus there was a player who was playing Boba Red, where it was all space units other than like Crate Dragon. So
Oh my goodness me.
I won against that with choose sides because I was able to take the first Ruthless Raider he played, and that stops so much damage, especially because I get the on death trigger as well.
Yeah, Ruthless Raid is a very strong and underrated card. To be fair, can
Very,
be
very strong.
can be very problematic if not dealt with in a proper way. And even when you deal with it, it's still doing damage on death. So I really dislike playing against that card. I will say.
And obviously, and in the final, the choose sides was absolutely pivotal for me, being able to fatigue his entire deck.
Yeah, and yeah,
It won me a lot of games.
All right, so yeah, I mean, have you put up any blogs about your matchups or anything like that?
That'll be going up tomorrow because I just got back home. So
Oh yeah, fair enough. Well, in that case, we won't strictly go through your matchups of your 11 wins, because you can go find that on your blog there. Give people a reason to come check out your content. But
because they just want to chat to me. That's also fine.
Yeah, I mean that's also fine. Like I say, you're a great deck builder, so you make really nice insights for any level of player, I think. So really great content to check out. Few final thoughts before we go. Are there any changes you would make? Or do you think you're pretty set on how you want it in Shadows of the Galaxy?
So it's a hard one. You can change around which 2 cards get promoted to main board to Waylay if it suits your taste better.
Yeah,
They said I just sort of picked it. You can even promote choose sides, to be honest. The card's just bonkers. Helped Return was the one that originally was promoted to the main to give me even more game 1 value. Because you can just bring back Fett's Fire Spray with it. Like, if your opponent kills Fett's Fire Spray and you bring it back, they're so sad.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
So you can play around with which 2 board cards get promoted.
But
I wouldn't change the board.
You wouldn't change anything on overall.
In the board, I'd change nothing at the moment. In the main, so I really like the jetpack, but I can see why people wouldn't want to play the jetpack. So maybe that can be swapped around for something else. Even go down to 53 if you want. The patrolling V-wings you can't take out because you need more cob target. In terms of cob targets, the only other high value target that I could find was the frontline shuttle.
Ah, yeah, very cool card.
But this deck doesn't have home ones, so frontline shuttle's not too useful.
Makes sense.
So it's sort of if you can find an argument for another high value target, then you can cut the V-wings for the other high value target. But I wouldn't drop the V-wings just to play 3 of on like Cloud Rider and Greedo or something, because you need cards that help benefit you, not just take away from your opponent.
Absolutely.
Any
Any other insights as far as
not much else that you can really change, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's all sort of mandatory. Like, even the Cloud Riders are mandatory. Like there's not much else that I can really see changing.
Perfect. All right. Well, very good to hear. And I mean, obviously, the proof is in the pudding. You went 11-0. How many games did you actually drop throughout the day? The days? Was it just
maybe 6? I can't remember how many with 2-1s. I know that the Boba Red was a 2-1. Han Blue was a 2-1. Boba Cunning at the end was a 2-1, and I think the one on stream was a 2-1.
Yeah, the final was a 2-1, yeah.
Final was a 2-1, and the other part was a 2-1, so I count 6.
Very, very good record. So are you looking forward to playing more tournaments in the future?
Yeah.
And what are you excited about for the future of Star Wars before we finish up here?
Well, as you said, I play loads of different decks, so I'm excited to play something other than Boba tomorrow for locals, and the day after for locals, and then at the weekend for the showdown. So
Nice, yeah.
I think I'm probably going to be playing Kira. She had a rather poor showing at the weekend, and I feel kind of bad for her because I think she's Like, I think Boba's the best deck, and I think Kira's like just slightly under Boba because she's also got a very wide array of things that she can do. Lots of tools to answer board states, can play for fatigue, so it's right up my alley. But the thing that separates her from Boba is that Boba gets, the draw. When the Boba player just does the things and it's all good and you can't do anything about it and you just lose. And Kira doesn't have that. So when making the choice of decks, I picked this one because I knew it was going to be a long event. So because it's a long event, I'm going to get multiple chances to just have the draw and get a free game win. Whereas with Kira, I'm going to have to play every game honorably.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. So, yeah, thank you for the awesome insight into your deck. Do you have any quick shout outs before we finish up today?
Yeah, everyone on my Discord who helps me practice and hangs out. The people in the rice fields. I'm sure one day they'll come round to agreeing with me about Snoke the joke, and the patrolling V-wing is the MasterCard, and then Hexiled Gaming is another little community that I play in. It's a nice one. It's like it's a streamer, and basically what he does is he does sort of King of the Hill on Tabletop Simulator and streams it, so you can just go and you join in, and then if you win, you stay on, and then more people challenge you and stuff.
Oh, that sounds
So it's a good way to get a few rotating games everyone's playing. Not always meta, because there's sort of like a bounty board, like win with Finn, and then you'll get center pack and things like that. So everyone plays sort of.
That sounds interesting.
Maybe
Maybe if you don't mind, when the video's out, you can potentially put some links in the comments for these communities if people might be interested in coming and joining.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. So, yeah, thank you very much again, Joshua.
I need to shout you out because I couldn't be here doing the interview without you.
That's true. And I was just about to do our little story. We actually played and met for the first time at UK Games Expo this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a mirror match in the top 8, which was probably one of the funniest, craziest matches I've had in this game so far. 45-minute match. You ended up basically wearing me down. Both my home ones, well, 2 of my home ones were at the bottom of my deck, unfortunately, and yours were not.
Yeah, one advantage.
And so we had a 45-minute game 1, and then proceeded to smash me in game 2. But it was a really, really fun time, and probably one of my favorite top 8 games I've had in any of the games I've played. So thank you for making that very fun, even though I lost.
It was very fun.
Yeah,
it's my first deck out win with Han. I was impressed.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. It was a very, very funny time, and all the judges said they hadn't seen anything like it all weekend. So at least I had that Medal of Honor as I picked up my prizing for top 8. But yeah, thanks again for your time and your amazing insight. And like I said, link in the comments. Go check out his awesome content. So any final words before we leave?
Yes. Don't believe in Snoke the joke. Make sure you defeat the Being Queen and praise the patrolling V-Wing.
Praise the V-Wing. We'll see you next time, guys.